to battle it out with the incumbent governor, Cleophas Lagat, for that ticket. But let's focus on the ODM primaries going on. My panelists still here in studio. And gentlemen, following the what we would call bungled primaries in Busia County, on the dailies this morning is lessons that other political parties really should learn, because ODM is the first one to kickstart these primaries. What lessons can other parties, Jubilee, NC, and all these other parties yet to conduct their primaries, what can they learn from this? Let's begin with you, Francis.
Yeah, true, that there are a whole lot for other parties to learn from it. Mm-hmm. And if they are not going to learn from it, then they are done. Simply because what is unfolding in Busia County is serious for the ODM per se, a party that is of such a stature, a party that has augured well with the electorate in those respective counties.
Right, and that being said, Brian, what relationship, what connection could we have should political parties not get these nominations right in the August 8th elections in terms of voter apathy? What impact could that have?
Beautiful, beautiful, Michelle. I think that's a very valid question that you have posed to us. And I want to just link your question with what you have asked before in terms of lessons learned. Mm-hmm. And I want to, first of all, say that early preparations is very key for primaries. We also have to understand that institutionalizing the issues of democracy in this country is very key also. We have that tendency of actually kicking out an institution that we feel it does not, work towards what we stand for. For instance, we have always been very fast in toppling the institution, the name of IBC or the electoral body, by messing up with its fabric, in terms of operational fabric, and that has not gelled as augured well with our sense of maturity in terms of democracy. And again, we also need to learn that changing the goalposts whenever we feel the legal framework is not favorable for us is not doing us any favor. I want to compare our country with America, which actually attained its independence in 1776, if I'm not right, gentlemen. And they have a constitution which has only 7 chapters. And you can imagine, out of the 200 years that it has served the Americans, it has only been mutilated partly 27 times. In other words, they have only done 27 amendments to the Constitution. And in Kenya, I cannot even, I've even lost count of the number of times that we have mutilated the law, including the electoral laws. And therefore, operating within a sound legal framework, including the law, the electoral laws, is very key.
For just to be elected, just because maybe their financial capability is good. So they're trying to look at, let's say, for instance, Busia. I still have a question mark with Oluoch, because just a few months ago, he defected from the party. He defected from his chair as a chairman. And later he came back. Then I think even ODM is looking at, okay, is this guy really loyal? And they're looking for people who are loyal, who are going to represent them in the general election. So at the end of the day, they don't want somebody to go through the nomination, then they get elected, then all of a sudden they turn to go to another party.
Let me say this.
That's what is happening.
Right.
That's what is happening.
Okay, let me say, first of all, democracy allows somebody to, associate himself with the party that he feels serves his own interests. So for Otuoma, it's just a part of the statistics that forms the equation in this country, where, politicians would jump from one party if there are issues they feel are not well, addressed. But again, the issues of impact, I think when you have asked when things are not going to go well as planned as far as the political party primaries is concerned, I think it forms a very important lesson for us to give conducting fair party nominations. It's a huge task for even parties themselves to do that, because it requires a lot of logistical sort of issues. It requires a lot of interpretation of the legal framework under which the party's nominations exist. And again, giving this work to party nominations, the results are very evident, as we saw in Busia, and we are likely to see more. In fact, I always tell people, if you think what you saw in Busia was anything to worry about, then wait until Jubilee conducts its nominations, because the line is very narrow for Jubilee. There's no opting out to any party. In Busia, at least the NASA, you can jump around from ODM, go to Wiper, for Kenya. Yes, exactly. But in Jubilee, the party of the land is a red color, and you cannot really vote out of the red color and expect to, do anything,
Which is one of the polling centers in Narok North constituency, and now I'm at Mashariani Primary School, still in the same constituency, that is Narok North, and the process of voting is still ongoing. At least there is a commendable huge line, of course, of eager supporters who arrived here as early as 8 to cast their vote and decide who will fly the ODM party ticket when it comes to the elective position of member of county assembly, and of course the women representative and that of the senator. When we arrived here, we found there were some issues that some of the voters who came here early, they were raising, and I'm now joined by one of the residents and a voter of Narok North constituency. Well, have you already casted your vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Shida ilikuwa nini hapo awali?
Shida sasa hivi yenye tumekuta watu wakiambiwa kama uko kwa register utavote. Na tunashangaa kwamba kwa nini uko kwa register na uko na kitambulisho tayari, na pia watu wamechukua kwa huduma center, na watu walikuwa ukihudumia kwa huduma center kuregister kwamba utapiga kura round hii. Kwa hivyo tunashangaa kwamba watu wakiambiwa hapa hivi utapiga kura na upatiwa kitambulisho, umepatiwa kibali ambaye utavote. Kwa hivyo tunasema watu, kama una kitambulisho na umechukua kitambulisho, hata kama umechukua juzi, umekubaliwa upige kura.
Lakini kuna wale ambao wanasema kwamba majina yao yapatikane kwa ile orodha ya chama cha ODM.
Tunashangaa basi kwa nini isipatikane, ama kwa nini wajaweka basi kwa hiyo register, lakini tunaamini ya kwamba hiyo kitu itakuwa sawa sawa. Na wala kila mtu hapa akiwa hapa atapiga kura. Yeah.
Na katika kituo hiki kinapiga kura ngapi?
Hapa sijajua, lakini watu almost karibu kama 100 ama 1000 wanapiga kura.
Okay. Well, that is a resident of Narok North, and he's already decided who will fly the party ticket in terms of the representative, women representative for the position of a member of county assembly and the Senate. Just to take you through, for the position of senator, we have two aspiring aspirants, that is Ledama Olekina and Tom Mutie, and those are the two aspirants who are battling it out for the ODM party ticket. When it comes to the women rep, we have three ladies. That Rebecca Tonkei, she's the widow of the late Tonkei, who was a bodyguard of the late Minister for Intern. Ole Musuni was handed a direct ticket, and he will be, of course, battling it out with Chama cha Mashinani aspirant, that is Patrick Tutu, who is the current member for Narok West, and of course the incumbent Samuel Ole Tunai on a Jubilee party ticket. Well, I'll just, my cameraman Martin, if you can assist me, we'll just sample some of the views and some of the issues that maybe these people who have arrived here as early as 8. And maybe I'll start with this gentleman. Je, matarajio yako ni yapi siku ya leo?
Matarajio yangu mambo yuko kamili, lakini naona ni Sadera ndiye atachukua hii hapa ndani.
Na je, kulikuwa na swala la ukosa majina, ambao watu wamekosa majina yao, sijui kama ambao nyinyi mmeweza kufahamu kama majina yao
hivi saizi. Bado mimi mwenyewe sijaingia, lakini kuna mheshimiwa Davasha ametoka akasema mradi tu kama uko na ID yako utakuwa umekubalika. Yes.
Na wewe matarajio yako kwa majina, alafu tuombe matarajio yako.
Kwa majina ni Joseph Liarash. Mimi naona matarajio yangu kura itapigwa kwa amani bila kubaguana. Mambo ya ID kupotea kwa register ndio naona ndio naleta tapa shapa.
lakini kura naona ikienda sabambe.
Na je, swala la usalama umeridhika na swala la usalama hapa?
Swala la usalama nimeridhika kabisa. Ndio.
Well, those are some of the views, and of course, when it comes to security, it's pertinent because what we witnessed in Bungoma and Busia, of course, security comes as a priority during this exercise. And at this polling center, we have a good number of police officers who have been here since morning, trying to keep order. And I'll just try to get inside here so that inside here the process is ongoing. And there's a queue. The 3 ballot boxes, that is one for the member of county assembly, one for women rep, and one for the senator position. And of course, as you know, is that Narok County has 6 constituencies, and here we are in Narok North constituency, but what we know is that Koitalel Ole Kenta was handed a direct ticket, and so for him, he's secured that he will, of course, be on the ballot paper come the 8th of August. And for other positions, of course, that is for the other 5 parliamentary seats. There were no any members of ODM who showed interest to vie for those positions. Remember that in Narok County, it is a cosmopolitan county, and they've been talks about whether it is a Jubilee zone or whether it is an opposition zone. And remember that recently we saw Chama cha Mashinani gaining traction here in there seems to be no any issues being raised, but what we know is that by 5 p.m. all the polling centers should be closed so that vote tallying can start. And of course, by at around 8, we should be knowing who has, of course, who is leading when it comes to the that decision, that crucial decision that everyone will be waiting for. But by at around 8, of course, our viewers should be at least knowing who will be leading when it comes to the 3 positions. That is the women rep, the member of county assembly, and of course that of the senator. Michelle.
All right, many thanks, Chris Thairo there, keeping an eye on the situation in Narok County as the ODM primaries continue. And of course, he tells us that by 5 p.m. the process should be done by now. But let's also keep an eye on the situation in Kakamega County. Hyamba, where are you now, and what is the situation there?
Michelle, some confusion that had begun because one of the agents walked in to try and help a voter, and that's where the problem started, because the other agents said that when they go in, unless there are 2 or 3 more agents, and that seems to be a problem. There's a lady here that is trying to push for the voice of reason, so they've moved aside, an observer, so they've moved aside to have a meeting. We'll just hear what she's saying.
Wananchi warudi kwa laini. Sawa sawa. Let Lurambi give out the best results. Mambo na vita tafadhalini tuachane nayo tafadhalini. As agents tulikubaliana ya kwamba mtu asiingie ndani. Kwa hivyo ibaki hivyo, wacha wananchi wapige kura. Yule mwananchi anataka mwenyewe atamchagua. Kwa hivyo tafadhalini Lurambi tuonyeshane mfano mwema.
Hakuna shida. Hakuna shida.
Umuulizi chochote. Ona, Munaleta sikizeni. Munaleta wananchi wanatoka kwa laini kupiga kura, wanakuja kujikusanya hapa.
Sababu ya watu wachache.
Which is not good. Na nyinyi ndio viongozi wao.
It's not fair.
Sisi tafadhali
hii mkutano ivunjwe kwanza. Hii mkutano ivunjwe hapa sasa. Inaleta tension.
Ivunjwe tu sasa hivi wapige kura because we are wasting time. Tunafanya watu wanafanya nini? Sasa.
Inaleta tension.
Please.
Inaleta tension hii mkutano hii.
Sawa. Let us become turudi kwa laini, watu wetu wapige kura. Sawa.
Tupige kura kwa amani.
Well, Michelle, they've actually reached an agreement because, as I mentioned earlier, because of the challenges being experienced here, the agents had agreed with the presiding officer that all agents actually stand outside. But there was one among them that was seen actually going there to sort of assist voter, and that's where the other agents got agitated and said, in case, because earlier on they'd agreed nobody goes in there to avoid overcrowding. So they were saying if somebody goes there in the name of assisting a voter, definitely they will be skewing the pattern in which that particular person would have voted. And so that is what actually threatening to bring some confusion. But that one has been agreed. Wekesa, if you could just stand there, and then we will show you initially what we had said. Kindly, if you can move out of the shot. So that is where the confusion was, because the agents agreed that because there's no sufficient room at the polling station here at the Muliro Gardens, nobody should stand there, because you can imagine, you can see the voters there and the queue. So if we could have agents there, then that one will sort of be like a marketplace. But now the problem was that one agent had sneaked his way there without the consent of the rest, and that's where there was a standoff. And as I said earlier, and as I said earlier, we can see, actually, area member of parliament, Raphael Otalo, is among the voters that are coming in. Perhaps we'll just try to hear out. Mheshimiwa, could we know whether you've cast your ballot as well? I'll hold for you.
Mimi Raphael Otalo, mbunge wa Lurambi, na pia ndafuta kura ya Lurambi. Nimeingia tu sahi, lakini vile naona hivi karibuni nitapiga kura. Ninaomba tu watu wangu wale ambao wako hapa sahi wanipigie kura, lakini nalalamisho moja. Kitu cha kwanza, naona hapa inaendelea vizuri, lakini kuna stakini zingine ambazo kama mtu hana apatikani kwa list ya IBC na ya ODM, wanakatazwa kupiga kura. Lakini hapa nimeona mafanya vizuri, yule ambaye yuko kwa hiyo list anapiga kura, lakini wanaandika jina lake chini.
Mheshimiwa, namba kama idadi unapoona hapa ni kubwa, lakini maafisa ambao wanaongoza shughuli ni wawili pekee, na unapoangalia nyuma hakuna mtu ambaye pengine yuko pale wa kujaribu kuongoza wenye wanapiga kura, kusaidia wale ambao wanahitaji usaidizi. Je, unaona itakuwa na changamoto? Manake tunaambiwa
hiyo itaweza kutusaidia. Na kitu ambacho nataka kusema sahihi, kuna mchezo ambaye inaendelea. Kuna areas ambazo najua niko very very popular. Na vile naona aidha watu wamepeleka boxes huko late. Kama sio hivyo, vile mnafanya hapa ndio sio vile wanafanya pande wale. Kuna areas ambazo zimesimamisha kufika kula kwa sababu ya matatizo ambayo tunaendelea kutatua, na hiyo inaweza kufanya watu waende nyumbani bila kupiga kura. Kwa hivyo nimeambia watu wangu wapige kura. Na tukipata kuna mahali ambapo kuna makosa, itabidi tutachukua hatua ya pili.
Mheshimiwa, last evening we spoke to the County Secretary General Andrew Toboso, and he said everything had been put in place. They had seen the mistakes that happened in Busia, and he said that we will not have such a challenge. We've just come from Shinyalu. Mheshimiwa Alisamla Anami is having similar challenge. By 10:30, areas like Shughuli, there was no voting material. Lusiola, the same. Now you are saying even in Lurambi, in some areas, voting yet to begin. What does this tell in terms of the preparedness of the whole exercise in this county in particular?
They were not prepared. And if they were prepared themselves with some ulterior motives. Because there are areas in this county where everything is going well. But there are marked areas, and I've looked at the people who are having problems, marked areas, which I feel there's some fishy things going on. I just ask my people, they vote. I know, for example, all people who are here, the ones who are surrounding me here, are going to vote for me. Yeah? Are going to vote for me.
But it's secret ballot.
Yeah.
How would you tell it?
If they didn't know me, they could not be. Is it true?
Is it true?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Where Bonanchi have moved away, have said there's going to be no election.
Where?
There is one candidate, aspirant, MCA, is not on the ballot. Have you come around such a case?
Yeah, we have a problem in Toto East, where the ballot box for MCS was not there. We have been trying to see how the people can come to vote, but we have been told. They're saying they're providing for a provisional ballot paper, And I'm sure maybe the people on the ground might get tired and go home. So the best way I'm seeing is to come to that particular polling station.
But in Butere, Mumias as well, there's a problem, and that is the area of the governor and even the county secretary general. By 11, the materials were yet to arrive. So it looks like there's a problem everywhere, but unfortunately it seems like it's the governor who's being blamed. In his own home area, by 11 a.m., there were no materials as well, and even Andrew Toboso's place.
Okay, I can't answer on behalf of the governor.
No, in terms of you saying that there's an ulterior...
Up to now, I've not seen who my returning officer is. He's the person who's supposed to be on the ground actually doing all the supervisions. Up to now, I don't have his number. I don't know who he is. And he's in this county, you see? So I feel that there's some ulterior motive.
The last question, if guys you could just move, there's something I want Mheshimiwa to help me understand. If you can see there, if you can see right there, there's that crowd. Gentlemen, even you can move. Now, there are no agents there, and it's supposed to be secret voting. Now, look at that. How could you explain what is happening? And it's supposed to be a secret ballot. Just look at, and maybe you comment on that particular aspect. And they're supposed to be doing that in secrecy, Mheshimiwa, as we look at the camera.
Okay, what happened is that when it comes to nominations, we are not as elaborate. Because I'm sure that we could be having booths here where somebody hides himself in. This is a nomination process where they could start, where we could even start to stand in a line and we count people. Yeah, that one I excuse them for that. Yeah.
So that is a member of Parliament, Raphael Otalo, of course, saying that he knows that he will get massive support here to Muliro Gardens, but that is neither here and there. So they are saying that he's their father, but the general exercise. Kuna jamaa hapa anasema nataka tuongee Kiswahili, tunaongea Kizungu sana na tuko Kakamega. Kwa hivyo mtazamaji, naambiwa kwamba Kizungu ni ya watu wa Nairobi. Kwa hivyo kinachozungumzia ama ambacho tumekuwa tunasema ni kwamba kidogo kwa kumetokea mtafaruku hapa na pale, banake maagenti walikuwa wamekubaliana kwamba wote watasimama nje ili watoe nafasi katika kibanda ambacho kinatumiwa kama kituo cha kupiga kura, ndiposa wanaopiga kura na wanaokuja kupewa makaratasi ya kura kusianze kuwa na msongamano. Lakini baada ya mmoja wa maagenti kwenda pale ndio ilileta tatizo, na mheshimiwa amesema kwamba ni changamoto ambao wanashangaa kumekuwa vipi, na vile vile visa vya kuchelewa kwa shughuli hii kwa kupigwa pengine kuchelewa kujua kufanya nini. Nitakushikia. Yes.
Mimi ni conductor katika barabara hii. Sasa ODM haikuweka mikakati katika ile kusafirisha vitu ya kupiga kula mapema. So by saa moja ndio magari sikuwa zinatafutwa, mnakomboa magari hapa, Nissan zinapeleka watu vifaa za kupiga kula. And that's why ikawa ikichelewa sana. Because by saa 2 ndio zingine tulikuwa magari zetu zimeitwa huko na ikaanza kusafirishwa saa 2:30. So ODM ilikuwa imepanga mapema jinsi ya kusafirisha box ya kupiga kura na wapiga kura. Secondly, kwa ODM tuko na shida. Hata ukiangalia ballot box pale, mtu yote anaenda hakuna mtu anachunga, hakuna mtu anaangalia what's going on, hakuna mtu wa kusaidia. Saa zingine mama hajui kupiga kura, bado hakuna kitu yoyote inaendelea pale. Mtu anapiga, mwingine anatoa kura nje anapeana kwa mwingine, unasema napigia nani, na bado hiyo vitu inaendelea katika kupiga kura za ODM. Tungeomba mheshimiwa Raila Odinga asiposimama kidete, itabidi kura za Western itakuwa ngumu sana kwa yeye. Because tumeona hiyo kitu ikiwa Busia, tumeangalia hiyo kitu ikiwa hapa. Sisi tunapiga saa 11 kwa kupiga kura, hakuna mtu yoyote akusaidia kutuonyesha hapa na pale ama tunaweza fanya nini.
Asante sana. Kwa hivyo ndugu, unakaa una machungu sana. Kwa kifupi senteza kidogo alafu hapa kwa TV unaangalia pande hii. Machungu yako ni nini? Na
shida yangu ni moja. Niko fine sana. Ukiniona nimekasirika inamaanisha nimesimama kwa haki. Hasira yangu ni moja. Kuna watu wanasema makaratasi zenye ziko bondeni na bongo pale zimetoka Mmiasi. Kwa hivyo watu wanabonga wapigi kura. Kuna makaratasi ziko Mungulu wanasema zimetoka Sheyo Ward. Watu wa Sheyo Ward sasa hawapigi kura sasa. Sasa makaratasi ziko Mungulu ni za Sheyo Ward zimetoka wapi? Na za Mungulu zilienda wapi? Hiyo ndio shida mimi niko nayo. Na mimi ni agent ya mtu mwenye sitataja hapa. Kwa hivyo mimi nazunguka kwa hizo polling station. Naendelea confirm kile kitu kinaendelea.
Asubuhi na unazunguka saa ngapi na tuko hapa?
Kama mimi kama nitasimama tu hapa, hii joto naweza kuwa nayo. Siwezi kuwa na hiyo joto. Sasa brother, Mimi nilikuwa nataka nikuulize, wewe umesoma. Sasa hivi uko na media hapa una record kila kitu. Hata kuna mtu ameniambia aliniona nikisema ati serikali nilipe 5000 nipigie serikali. Nilisema hivyo? Sikusema hivyo. Nilisema serikali ingekuwa ilipunguza loans, ningekuwa mtu wa serikali. Mtu akiwa na idea anaenda kuchukua loan hata kama ni 1000.
Kwa hivyo walikuwa na kwa TV.
Mimi nilikuwa nasema hivi, wewe umesoma. Hii maneno wanasema mtu wa ODM akuwe na form ndio apige kura. Form ni nini? Na mimi niko na kura na ID. What is form?
Nani amesema form itoke wapi?
Niliona watu walikuwa wanarejesha makaratasi, vurumai ziko huko kando kando. Watu hawapigi kura, wengi wanasukumwa. Wachache ndio wanapiga.
Kwa sasa taacha, nashukuru kwamba wenzako walikuona kwa TV, tena wamekuona kwa TV ukiclarify, na hope tutakutana baadaye kama agent. Na
una swali unaweza niuliza?
Si nimekuuliza hasira ni ya nini?
Hasira ni starehe yangu. Hiyo sio shida yako. Una swali lingine?
Wala. Kwa hivyo nitakuuliza swali na ile experience na ile hasira. Lurambi, kumekuwa na mtindo kila uchaguzi huwa kunatokea mbunge mpya, lakini mbunge yako hapa amesema ana matumaini watu ni wake. Wewe juu na hiyo experience pia, na wewe ni mtu wa ground. Kila uchaguzi Lurambi huwa na kiongozi mpya. Unaona hiyo itikadi ikiendelea ama
ule mtu atakuwa anachaguliwa kila saa? Ni ule ananisaidia mimi ndio nitafurahia. Ule anisaidie siwezi furahia. Kama ni mheshimiwa amekuwa hapa mimi nitakufa na yeye. Kwake nilianza kunywa chai karibu miezi 6 imeisha. Sasa mimi nitachagua mtu ambaye sijui kwake.
Sasa ni chai.
Nitachagua mtu sijui. Huyo ndio mimi najua peke yake. Kwa Lurambi constituency, huyo ndio mheshimiwa mimi najua. Nikipiga hodi
well, Michelle, I think we'll leave it there for now. 1 o'clock, we'll try move where he's an agent going across the county. Tutafatana na yeye tuone kama tutaenda huko kwingine, tuone hali iko vipi. But for now, I think we'll leave it at that, Michelle. If you can hear me, over to you.
All right, asante sana Duncan Hayamba hapo akiwa Kakamega, and a very interesting crowd there in Kakamega, but still very concerning issues going on there, gentlemen. The very fact that there doesn't really seem to be a secret ballot going on in that particular polling station in Lurambe constituency. That is something that is likely to lead to a lot of claims later on when the results are coming. So still on that, bungled nominations, if history is anything to go by, end up in 2 things. 1, violence, and the second one is massive fallouts within those parties. I'd like us to focus on these fallouts. Brian, earlier you brought in the issue of the fact that within NASA, the candidates have the leeway to really jump from one party to another. Before. Yeah. So after these ODM nominations, well, Elizabeth Ongoro did it before.
Yeah, it has brought the kind of political loyalty into a little bit of more intense loyalty in political parties, as opposed to before when people could just mess around from one party and just go to the other after losing the party primaries. But again, we also want to look at the negative aspect of that law, which actually bars candidates from jumping to another party after losing. It has actually brought a lot of heated, sort of intense campaigns, which other candidates have even gone overboard to apply unorthodox measures to ensure that they are at the ballot come August. Right. And this has not augured well. For instance, when you see the heightened political temperatures of now, it ought not to be like that at this point of the year. A country that is experimenting or experiencing heightened political temperatures from since last year all the way to now, all the way to August, it's not good for economic development or economic growth for any country that wants to achieve the SDGs, the so-called Sustainable Development Goals. And I want to say also that we also need to have some laws coming to ensure that they regulate the electoral atmosphere, in the sense that this issue of early campaigns, as one of the presidential candidates bolted out and used this as an excuse that why he's not going for the presidential elections. That was Philip Murugo. That was the excuse he gave. And I do want to agree with him that it is true that the electoral laws are so weak in this country that does not offer that kind of balanced or the so-called balanced environment for all the players to work together.
Right.
And again, when you talk about the implication that has brought on to the issue of, for instance, Jubilee, I want to say that that issue of party loyalty, having been entrenched now in the politics, is something that we should be proud of. But again, the negative aspect of it seems to outweigh the positive gains that the law came with.
Francis, the chances of independent candidates and that entire spectrum of having independent candidates, some of them could be rather popular, and that could raise stakes for even the presidential candidates. What are we likely to see?
Yeah, actually what my colleague is saying, that like in NASA, there are a number of parties that have come together. And actually that has created a leeway for one who is dissatisfied in a particular party to party hop, because the IEBC has, Chairman Chibukada has come clear and said that on 25th of this month is the deadline for you to have ascertained where you'll be you'll be running.
Right.
And as an independent candidate is also an option that has been created. And what I can say, our political parties, they lack internal democracies. And this has been elusive in most of our political parties, because you can see what is happening in Lurambi. Someone was being interviewed and he was saying that this morning is when they were looking for materials, for vehicles to transport materials. What does that tell you? And yet there are many candidates who are running on ODM and they have racked in billions, which should have been used to ensure that the preparedness for these primaries is well planned in advance and that things sail smoothly to the benefit of the party.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, even IEBC having set that deadline for the 25th of April, that is 10 days from now. ODM is the first party within NASA to kick off their party primaries, which are likely to end next week. Are we likely to see massive defections within NASA parties, from ODM to ANC, Wiper, for Kenya?
Okay. What I think so far is, party hopping has been there for a very long time. And the fact that right now NASA has several parties within NASA, we still have this question. If you are really loyal to a party, you have gone to a nomination, and maybe you think that it was not free and fair, rather than going to another party, why can't you go to court? Because we have our courts here. Why can't you go to court? And if you are very sure and you have evidence that you won the election, why should you go to another party? Why shouldn't you just go to court and take this thing to court and see the way forward? And another thing about party hopping, let's say, for instance, the issue of Ongoro. Ongoro was barred from running in Ruaraka, and because of violence. And right now, ANC, she has run to ANC. And I ask myself, if she was banned from running as an aspirant in Ruaraka because of violence, and she's one of those aspirants who agreed about the code of conduct, and now ANC has taken her, what is that? What kind of picture are you having?
Right.
That today, as an aspirant, if I'm accused by ODM that I'm violent, I can still go to another party and run. Then that is very unfortunate. So we need to do something, because even IBC really need to do something about it. Because IBC should not allow anybody that has been accused by the party or any political party that they are violent to run for election.
Brian.
Yes. I think Evans has brought a very important issue about parties' ability to have to resolve issues through the alternative dispute mechanisms, and whether they have that capacity is a discussion for another day. But to me, no party in this country has that capacity to resolve political disputes amicably. And the beauty of it is that we have the Political Parties Dispute Resolution Tribunal, which was formerly headed by Maraga, who is now the CJ today. And that's the only option for us to have when we exhaust the political parties' disciplinary issues and we find ourselves not able to crack the ceiling. we have a leeway for us to, bring our disputes to that particular body. But again, the entry is already full before even the nominations start, because the nature of nominations and the disputes that are going to arise are very huge. I do not see even the capacity, that body having the capacity also to, to act upon all the issues that are about to start streaming in those, because parties do not have the ability to address the issues of disputes within their party's mechanisms, and that's something to worry. And that's why I always keep on saying that we need to start thinking as a community. We need to start thinking early as a nation, as stakeholders in the electoral process. The best way to approach elections, first of all, is to give that capacity, as I said before, Michelle. That IBC need to be given teeth to bite. It needs to be strengthened in a way that its structure is broadened enough to be able, first of all, to handle nominations. Not necessarily the way it is right now. We can expand it in a way that we give it some sort of expanded mandate to be able to carry out credible nominations on behalf of political parties, because Article 88 of the Constitution says that there's no shortcut to that. That role is enshrined in the Constitution, that the IBC has a role to play in terms of ensuring that they assist political parties to carry out credible nominations.
All right, Francis, you have something to add to that.
Yes, I wanted to say that my colleague has kept on talking of party loyalists. How do you gauge or measure that so-and-so is more loyal
than the other?
Right.
By sticking to the party.
That's the question that we need to look into. And because of lack of internal party democracies, it's the one that is giving rise to this party hopping. If we can nurture internal party democracies, this will reduce considerably, whereby you play on a level playing field and one loses cleanly and is bound to accept because the level playing ground was open to everyone, and the way everyone has been able to look at it and see it and assess, it sees that like Ochwacho has lost cleanly, but because of those of lack of internal party democracies, it's the one that is bringing this. And this is a culture that has been inculcated for over time now. Look at the history of the Kenyan elections. That's why we are talking of having institutions that are independent, and they have to be seen to be independent.
Right.
That's why there's the importance of tallying of votes. Look at what happened in Busia. The elections officers, what were they doing? They tend to delay results of a particular candidate so that they exhaust results from these other areas while they are cooking. And this is something that has been exhibited sometimes before.
Right.
You remember the Nithi constituency, what happened? They exhaust areas of these two rivals only to do their mathematics and ensure that this is the number that we can be able to juggle with. And
But you know, Francis, I'm no longer sure whether we're just talking about a lack of internal party democracy or the fact that we have leaders and aspirants who lack democracy themselves. They themselves are not democratic, or maybe we're dealing with both. Because just now, speaking to Duncan Haemba, he was speaking to Lurambi Member of Parliament, Honorable Raphael Otalo, and we keep saying time and time again, the environment surrounding the party nominations is likely to be the environment surrounding the elections. But we have Honorable Otalo here saying, these are just nominations. We don't have to be as thorough. These are just nominations. I mean, how does that really reflect on even the electorate?
Tell him, in fact, this is elections. If he thinks that come August will be the elections, this is the real elections in Kenya, according to the context which we are operating. Because once you get it right from the nomination level, August will be just a walk in the park, especially when you are politically correct. When you are in a party of the land for that particular constituent. And for him to just say this is just a nomination, I think is mistaken, and he needs to be reminded that if he is not going to take the nomination process seriously, or he never did it prior to what is happening today in terms of nominations happening per se, then is in for a rude shock come August, because whoever did good preparations for the nominations, clinched the ticket, will automatically be I mean, will be somehow assured, not automatically, but somehow assured of a win in August. But I also want to wrap in on something that he had talked about when he talks about the issues of party loyalty. Michelle, you'll agree with me that these elections are special in the sense that the law that has brought the issues of party hopping has complicated matters as compared to before, in the sense that whoever does not get it right within the nomination process is bound to be in the code for the next couple of years as far as electoral service is concerned. But now for us as a country, we also need to think about where we are operating as a country. We need to put measures which will not make elective posts attractive. You demystify it further by ensuring that the pay packs, the terms of service are not that friendly, because it has come to a situation where somebody will literally kill to ensure that he has a political post. And I'm saying this because when you look at some countries such as the US, a member of parliament serves for a paltry 2 years and is not likely to go back. And the perks are not that enticing that would want somebody to kill someone to go for that post. In the US, again, I want to tell you the Senate serves for only 6 non-renewable years. In Kenya, you are bound to go on until you feel your body does not want to go further. And therefore, it's a matter of us sitting down and reviewing the electoral roles under which the country is operating, and even the constitution, doing the so-called midterm review as a country, calling for the so-called national symposium to review the gaps that are existing and coming up with measures that will actually limit these gaps.
I mean, and that becomes difficult because the same people making these laws are the same people that are also looking for these positions. But it is a credible point, because last night, KTN ran a story of a Kenyan woman who has been declared senator in Australia. And she was hosted on KTN before that, and she was telling us how for you to be senator in Australia, really all you get is an allowance of about 70,000 Kenyan shillings. In the position of senator.
Exactly, but
so it's not that attractive. You have to do it because you want to do it. But Evans, really, in terms of speaking about the Bangold party nominations, one of the reactions there is fallouts from the parties themselves, but also violence is something that Kenyans are also very worried about. We've seen this in Busia, spates of it, the police seemingly trying to control that violence. But how can we shift the responsibility to Kenyans themselves in maintaining peaceful coexistence throughout this electoral process?
There's a very big issue here when it comes to violence. As for instance, I'm an aspirant. And just the other day, I was holding a small event for women. And unfortunately, one of my opponents sent somebody there to come and bring chaos, you know. And first, I will blame the youths first. Because if you're a youth and you ask yourself, if you're given 200 shillings to go and cause chaos, how are you going to benefit? Because this time around, I believe what Kenyans need is true leadership. We don't need people who are going to fight each other. We don't need people who are going to incite others. Because at the end of the day, just as my brother said here, it is not a matter of life and death. You don't have to kill somebody so that you can rule. You don't have to incite the youth so that you can rule. And another thing, about another MP just said about this just a nomination. It is not just a nomination. Because there are some areas, like in Kisumu, this is a general election. Because you are sure that the moment you get the ODM ticket,
you're sure.
You are assured of general election.
If you go to some areas like in central Kenya, if you get a Jubilee ticket, you're 100% sure, you know? So at the end of the day, okay, there are some places, like say, let's say in Nairobi here, or maybe in Machakos, you're running with ODM. At the end of the day, you can say it's just a nomination, because you're not sure, because Wiper is there, and they're dominating all in Machakos, in Eastern. So what I can say is our party leaders, they should be in the front line to preach peace.
All right.
Our aspirants, whether they are youths, they are old men, women, they need to be in the front line in preaching peace. And if you think you're not satisfied with either the election result, we have avenues to solve these issues. And you are talking about how should we know somebody who is loyal to a party. If I got the nomination on 25th, and I know very well that I won the election, and maybe something happened that they declared somebody else, I can still go to the court, you know? just to show that I'm still loyal to the party.
Right.
I cannot just maybe like the election was held today, they declare somebody else the winner, then tomorrow I'm in a different party. You know, it does not show that you're loyal. You have to look for avenue within the party first, and if they don't work out, you go to the court. You see? Then from there we can see the way forward.
All right, gentlemen, we're just about to wind up. So let's have final comments, Brian, in terms of what should we expect in this primary season? Jubilee yet to kick off its primaries.
I think it will be a do or die, especially in Central and Jubilee-dominated areas, geographically speaking. And that does not limit it to only Jubilee affair, but also in other parties it will be a do or die, in the sense that because of the legal framework under which we are operating, it has really restricted the people to a very narrow pathway. And the cures that we are left with
8th of August this year, because if they force candidates down the throat of some to the electorate, that will resonate badly with the electorate, and they will end up losing seats in the coming general election.
All right, so we hope lessons have been learned. Many thanks, gentlemen, Ochwacho Francis, Brian Mutie, and Evans Oluoch, joining us on KTN News Center as we dissect the ODM party primaries going on today in Kakamega, Narok. But remember, the primaries are also continuing in Samburu County as well as Turkana County, but only for the positions of MCA and Member of Parliament. It is at that point that we wind up this edition of KTN News Center. We thank you for staying with us. We take a short breather now, but I'll be seeing you at the top of the hour on Weekend at 1.